California is leading the way toward a greener future. But for people in California, it's an expensive future. They pay some of the highest utility bills in the nation. And it raises an inconvenient question. If green is really so great, why are people and businesses leaving California in droves? Okay, Daniel, Gavin Newsom trying to make his case in the pages of the Wall Street Journal. It's a case that flies in the face of a lot of things people in California got to live with every day.
Well, first of all, it's a bit of the antithesis of the last segment. We're talking about what Trump is doing with deregulation, trying to expand energy right now. You've got the rolling brownouts, you've got expensive gasoline, businesses struggle to stay there. My home state of Texas, we have been a great beneficiary of many of the policies of Governor Newsom, bringing businesses to Texas. And it's because, this is an economic challenge for companies. And by the way, California is the home of many of the world's leading technology companies, NVIDIA and AMD, these companies that we're talking about, many of them have major headquarters there. I think it's a story. I think it's losing momentum. I think on the world scale, if we agree that AI, for instance, is the most important economic decision of the next multiple decades, making energy more expensive, more difficult, and not opening up and scaling the grid in a way that's efficient is going to be a loser.
I thought this was interesting, Jackie. California imports almost 90% of its natural gas, despite sitting on tens of trillions of cubic feet of reserves.
In what world does that make sense? You had a huge refinery that just closed there as well. They do everything that they can to discourage energy, not only from the production standpoint, but to bring the end product to their users, Brian. And that's why they pay so much for energy there. That's why whenever we talk about gas prices, we always say, oh, excluding California, because it's such a mess there. That they bring it in, it costs more. With respect to their gas, for example, they have special environmental blends that makes it cost more as well. Look, $4.48 in California when the rest of the country is paying an average of $3.16. But those prices, do you remember at one point those prices were like close to $7 a gallon? And it was really out of control. So they do themselves no favors. People are leaving in droves. I mean, I guess it takes a long time for all this the bad policy to play out and for the pendulum to swing for people to get mad enough to vote these people out of office. But if Gavin Newsom thinks he's going to be president of the United States, I think he's got a massive wake-up call coming.
I'll throw another one digging at you. California used to produce 60% of the oil it consumed, and they've got reserves as high as 30 billion barrels, and yet today they produce only 23% of what they consume. So they need this stuff, they have this stuff, and instead they spend money on floating windmills off the coast.
Are you reading from the Gavin Newsom editorial?
Oh no, I'm reading from another one that maybe provides a little reality check on Gavin Newsom. Little reality check.
Because that's something that he would actually brag about. He's proud that they don't use the clean burning fuels like natural gas. Because it's a fossil fuel. They don't use nuclear either. There was one nuclear plant that there's virtually, I don't think there's any nuclear. The last remaining nuclear plant was going to be shut down in kind of the mid-2020s. But there was one nuclear plant, the San Onofre plant was shut down in 2013, despite only needing the replacement of a steam generator for less than $700 million. And there is no form of electricity cleaner than nuclear and more reliable. It is baseload. So Alex Epstein, he has talking points about every element of the kind of energy disaster within California, and he goes into the California blackouts, and he, rather than talking about renewables, he calls them the unreliables. So it's blackouts, brownouts, and high cost, and this was all mandated use of green energy by California. That they decided. One of the things was he points out that the reality is that California is a massive electricity parasite, hugely dependent on reliable natural gas, nuclear, and coal plants from neighboring states like Arizona, Nevada, and Utah. I know why Gavin Newsom wrote this. and it's what you said. Gavin Newsom knows that the one thing that artificial intelligence needs other than chips is energy. And you are not going to get it in California. They do not have a reliable grid. They do not have reliable sources of energy. And they also, if you got a permit for an AI server facility, a data center, you're not going to get the permit.
Yeah.
Don't go there. Get the hell out while you can. You're better off putting your data center on a barge and just kicking it out into the Pacific than putting it in California, as long as somebody like Newsom is there.
That could be what happens in California. Tiffany, this is your neck of the woods. So you can't get the heck out of there because you live there. But on the ground, how does Gavin Newsom's claims here stack up to reality?
Well, unfortunately, Washington State sort of follows California's policies. And I mean, Gavin Newsom has a bankrupt state. I think he left out in his op-ed that prices have rose by 50% in the last 4 years. So energy costs are going up for families and they're fleeing his state. So he's losing the population. And to your point, Dagan, it's not reliable. And then they're mandating people to get green cars and plug-in cars, but then you can't even charge your car. I mean, it's like, what world? That's like a test plot for a socialist world, right?
Yeah.
That people will have to live in. And not only that, their wildfire risk has gone up considerably in that state, and that's wildly harmful to everything. So it's, is he trying to win votes? Is he on his, like you're saying, Jackie?
So the crazy
it's
thing
not going
is,
to work though. He's behind the curve.
If it's bad for businesses, it's bad for the environment, it's bad for individuals.
It's bad for farmers.
It's bad for the use of the natural resource they have for farmers, which is why he's got to write the op-ed, because he's got to fly in the face of all that stuff.
Look at there's a photo of a solar farm in California. You know what? These hideous solar panels are taking the place of food being grown.
Well, and how much energy does that produce? Like, what are the numbers on that huge solar farm? And like, we know that windmills don't work.
It doesn't.
By the
it doesn't
way,
produce much, but at least it's unreliable.
When they have been used up, they create a tremendous amount of waste.
Yes.
Exactly.
If you read this, though, it really is funnier than anything Colbert's done. It says, Gavin, he didn't write it, I bet, but so far this year, clean energy fully powered California's grid an average of 7 hours every day. Ooh, 7 whole hours out of 24, but that's the average. So I wonder if it works out. Like, some days you don't get any electricity.
Between midnight and 7 a.m., Dagan.
Right. It's like a third world country.
As they say, make hay when the sun shines in California. Coming up.
Or
Elon-
burritos.
Yeah, too. Elon Musk sounded the alarm after a tough quarter for Tesla, while he's warning of a rough road ahead. Plus, don't forget to tune in to